So everybody can see enough on the screen because I experiment with the resolution so it's visible now. Okay. So what this talk was about is theme packages. Actually, this was the name that we used for a crowdfunding campaign when we started the project. Now it's called TEMI themes. And I will just give you a short introduction how it came to the situation that we created those themes, and then I will show you a live presentation of something I have on my development machine here so that you can see the backend in action, and actually you can see all the different things that have been talked about in the talks before, the page tree and all the editing forms and how that 3 works, together with the stuff we implemented as themes. So the reason why we created these themes in the first place was something like this. Has anybody seen something like this when working with Tapestry before? Yeah? The problem is everybody who is working with Tapestry and never has worked before with Tapestry will see that. And it's even worse because when you solve that problem, no pages are found on the root level, and you found out how to create your first page on the root level, the next error message will tell you there is no TypeScript template found on the root level page. And then you have to find out how to create that, and then maybe you will be able to see something which is called Hello World. And this is not very impressive because when you start with the CMS and you want to see something, how it is working and how it can help you, Hello World is not that helpful. So what we created in the first place was called the introduction package, which is now available for download on tapestry.org, so that you can have something available to see how Tapestry is running. But when we created the themes package, the introduction package had a license that did not allow you to use it for your personal work. So when you wanted to have a commercial website based on that introduction package, you had to switch all that stuff and to remove stuff from the package because the license didn't allow you to build this stuff on that. And this is something that has changed now, but when we created the themes package, it was not possible. So we created something that was usable for everybody, so that you can use ready-made designs like you use by other WordPress or Drupal. And I can show you another thing, which was about the stuff that we had when the others already had ready-made templates. This is one of the first ready-made themes for Tapestry that has been made available by Kasper Skarholm, who was the actual inventor of Tapestry, a guy from Denmark. And he created this FC Big Feed site, which is still online because as you can see, it's a URL. You can see this was the demo site that you can use to learn how Tapestry works. And there was another set of so-called static templates, which is still available as an extension. You can install that and you can try to use that. And it provided you with stuff like the bug template. I don't think it's a good name for a template. It was named like that. You had a business template, candidate, and other stuff. And these were all ready-made designs that you could use with the very early versions of Tapestry. Because then Kasper Skarholm was still around, and his idea was to give you a tool to get up a website quick and dirty and do something with content so that you don't have to care about the programming and the design too much, so that you can just modify ready-made stuff. Then time came where Tapestry was positioned as a so-called enterprise-level content management system, and most of the people who called it like that said, we don't need themes for that. Because enterprise-level clients, they have their own CI, they have their own internal way of doing things, and they will not buy ready-made stuff. And I will show you later that this was not a good idea. And I can tell you now it is not a good idea from a community point of view, because when you tell people you don't need the stuff for the low-level sites, you will lose the base of your community. And when you lose the base of your community in an open source project, in the long term, you will lose developers as well. So this is why the core team is shrinking. This is why you run into other problems, because you have no larger base like WordPress and Drupal and Joomla anymore. And this is that we want something that we want to change with these as well. As you can see, there are lots of shops in the web. This is Theme Forest. There are other shops as well. And you can buy thousands and thousands of ready-made themes for each and every CMS out there. WordPress, Joomla, even shop systems like Magento have themes there, but there's nothing for type 3. The question is why? I think one of the answers is because the people said we don't need that, so nobody did it. And the other thing is that designers trying to do that run into the problem that I showed you in the first screen. No pages found on the root, no template found on the root page and stuff like that. So they just stepped back, took another system and did something for them. It was much easier. And this is when we came up with that one. It was a crowdfunding campaign that we actually did not to get money to do this stuff, because actually all the money we collected is not used for development purposes. We just use it to buy licenses from the people in the shops, so that we have a ready-made theme that we are allowed to use and to relicense and to put into the TER, the extension repository of Type 3, to make it freely available. So we just collected money to have a kind of voting. So everybody who put money, regardless of the amount, into the pot was allowed to give a vote for the front-end framework that we should use as a base for the first themes that we are creating. So I think it was about 85% for Bootstrap. So the decision was clear that we go for Bootstrap in the first run, and that we might implement other frameworks as well. So the difference is that we are not just creating some themes and make them available somehow, and don't care about standards and frameworks and the usual stuff that you are working with. We want to do it the Type 3 way. Because when you take a look, we took a look, for example, at WordPress themes and templates. When you get them from the same developer, the same designer, you might be lucky that you can interchange stuff. So you can, for example, create something with one theme and then switch to another one in the future. But when you have another developer, it's quite more or less impossible to do that, because nobody is sticking to any standard in this community. They are just creating something, they throw together PHP, HTML code, so that it just works, which is on the one hand fine, because then they are quick and they can deliver something. But on the other hand, it's not easy to interchange stuff. So what we wanted to do is to implement a Type 3 community-wide standard of working together and creating themes in a certain way, so that you have a base to be working on, and then you can create your stuff with the less amount of coding necessary to change the stuff we already did for you. So one of the first themes we bought was from Red Bootstrap. It was very cheap because there are some designers selling the extended license for just $100. The extended license means that we can relicense this in any way we like, and we can resell it or just give it away for free. It doesn't matter what we want to do with that. We choose to go for the MIT license, so that it is now available in the TER. And this theme is called Highland. I'm just switching to some of the functionality so that you can see there are different design levels of buttons and panels and info boards. You can have a look at that on Red Bootstrap. It's still available there. And there's a preview. You can have a live preview of that theme there, because I'm currently not connected to the web. But this is the one, the original one. And the next screen will be the one that we created in Type 3. You can see the domain on top. Can you read that in the back row? The URL, so that you can try it out, because it's a live demo site of the same theme based on Type 3. So what we had to do is to introduce a set of extensions that is depending on each other. Each level of extension then will create another piece of the theme that we want to create. So we are creating the base, the Bootstrap base, and the theme base. On that bootstrap base, for example, now there's another layer, which is the theme Highland base. And on top of that, you can create your own theme and just redesign theme Highland because it fits your design best. Maybe you can just get another theme, and you just have to create a few lines of code to modify that. I can show you how it works in the back end. Just have to reload that. So everything you see now is live on my development machine. You can have something like that on another URL that I can give when we are finished, because there's a demo site of this available as well, and there are even hybrid boxes so that you can download that and have it up and running on your local development machine. As you can see, we have the usual functionality of Typo 3. We have a page tree, but we have a slightly different look and feel here in the sections on the right side, in the page module, the so-called page module. You can see the slightly different colors. We choose to go this way because we wanted to represent the color for a certain part of the backend layout that we are using. So the backend layout tries to, in a way, mimic the front-end layout so that the editor will know where to place the content and what to do with the theme. You can choose in the page from a set of ready-made layouts here, which are just available because you install themes and Theme Bootstrap. Because Theme Bootstrap provides all these backend layouts for you, so you don't have to care about that. Most of the stuff that you will be willing to do in the front end can be done with this different sets of menu, sidebar, content, top and bottom section. So if you need anything else, you have to create it on your own. If you don't need it, you can just deactivate it and it's not visible in the backend anymore. I can show you how it works later on. So we have all these different layouts for the pages. And additionally, we have lots of different content elements created slightly different than the usual Typo 3 core, because all we do in themes is based on an extension called grid elements. And that actually is the reason why I'm in that team, because it's an extension that I created for T-Systems, which is a client that we are working for. And this grid elements is bringing the structures of the page layouts to the content level, so that you can have boxes with different columns, 2 columns, 3 columns, and all that stuff. And you can drag them around and fill them into some of the sections of the page module, and they will create additional structures where you then can fill in additional content by just dragging it in. This is a functionality that you will get with grid elements. And since grid elements is a dependency of the themes package, you will get it automatically when you install themes. So you don't have to care about that, it's just there. But don't look for this functionality if you are using the Typo 3 core by default, because this is not available there. So it's just functionality of grid elements. So what we did is we created a set of useful grids that cover most of the cases that you might run into when you want to work with Bootstrap, because Bootstrap has accordions, has tabs, has stuff like that to be used in the front end, and you need something like that to create it as an editor in the back end. So we have the multi-column stuff, we have an accordion, we have a carousel, we have a simple container where you can put something in without any additional functionality. We have a row, and then we have 3 different kinds of columns, vertical in the back end, or panels, or horizontal in the back end, and we have tabs. So this is covering, I think, 90% of the use cases of Bootstrap. If you need something more, you can create it yourself. If you don't need it, you remove it. It's always the same in themes, so you only have to do the stuff additionally that you need that will not fit this 90% rule. So when you take a look at the 3-column grid, for example, you can even nest that. It's not that visible on a screen size that we have now, but usually your workplace should have another resolution than that. So you can nest the structures, you can have 3 columns in 3 columns in 3 columns. Of course, it doesn't make sense to go deeper because then it will not be readable in the front end anymore, but you can combine all these different grids however you like. And you can restrict content so that you can tell the grid, okay, in this part of the grid you are only allowed to put, for example, images and text, but no additional grid and no other content elements, so that the editors cannot break the design that you created for them. So everything you do to create that stuff is combined with something that we moved from the template section to the so-called themes section. Each time you install a theme, it means that the page you install the theme on will get such an icon with the green and orange stuff here. You can even install different themes in the same page tree, so that the pages will behave differently depending on the branch you are in. This is has a reason because the actual inventor of themes is Kai Strober, and he's working for a government in Saxony in Germany. They have about 300 schools on the same type of 3 installation. And each of these schools has a small set of a page tree, and they need their own theme for their school, so it must be possible to select different themes within the same page tree. So what you can do is, you can choose a theme here, and as you can see there's a default Bootstrap theme, and for example this is a small test theme that we just created to show how it works to put all the different extensions on top of each other. So when you activate the theme slate, it will change the functionality just by activating. So there might be other page types available now, and there might be other grids available now in different configurations. You can take a look at that. But it uses still the same number of page types, so you don't see any change here. So I will not go into that detail because then we don't have too much time, but if you're interested I can show you later how this all works. The good thing about this theme section is as soon as you have selected the theme, you can change it just by editing some of the variables provided by this theme. So depending on the theme author, this might be a lot or just a few variables. So you can change colors, for example, or you can go to different parts where there is a kind of constant to replace it on different parts in the website for the content. You can set URLs where to get icons from or font icons from when you have some external URLs you use for that purpose. So you can change almost everything, and you can select the level that you want to present. And you see the expert level has much more colors available for this theme and much more values to change. The good thing is that everything you do here is done by TypoScript. So TypoScript makes sure that Type 3 core will be used to implement that functionality, and that you don't run into security problems, that you don't have to care about the PHP functionality below. You just change something here and the editor cannot break anything, as long as you didn't implement it in a way that it can still break anything. But usually you have just some values here that the editors are allowed to change. For example, they can select the Highland theme then and say, okay, I don't like the gray top, I will change it to something green or whatever. So you can modify the existing stuff on a level that you are allowing as the creator of that theme. Is this understandable so far? Okay. So the major problem we have to face when we want to create something which is standardized is, on the one hand, we have to provide standardized structures for the extensions that we are using. This is something which has been implemented by the so-called site packages in Typo 3. You can look up that term together with Typo 3. There are lots of slides of conferences and camps available by a guy called Benjamin Cott. He's a core developer, and he provided a huge set of information about those side packages, because this is the way you should structure stuff and extensions to make it work automatically with the core. And this is something we did with themes as well. So themes is based on the structure of side packages, so we make sure it's interchangeable on the code level. And what we had to do in addition is to make sure that it is possible to interchange it based on the different front-end frameworks. Currently, we are based on Bootstrap, but for example, during the last user experience week of Type 3, there was a team implementing a new theme base for Foundation. So Foundation is using different class names for actually the same purpose. So when you create an accordion or a tab, another behavior in Foundation, the CSS classes might be slightly different to the ones used in Bootstrap. So it would be not a good idea to use the original classes of the frameworks, because if you do, you have to do a migration each time you want to change the base of your website, when you want to do a relaunch, for example, and switch from Bootstrap to Foundation because the client did like it more or the designers are more used to it. So what we decided is to go for so-called generic class names. And therefore we created some fields, especially for the content elements. As you can see, there are variants, responsive settings, and behaviors here. The responsive settings is just one field in the database, and we create currently just 4 different screen sizes. You can even have more if you like, and add them or remove them if you don't like them. The same as with the bagger layouts. And when you select something else than the default, you will see that there is something here written into that field. Currently, this is the developer mode. If you have this in production mode, the editor won't see what is filled in there. It's just for us to make sure that everything is right. So when you add all these different generic classes, they are translated into the official classes of your framework when you generate the content in the front end. So you can keep these classes if you change the theme. And you can even keep them if you change the base of your theme from Bootstrap to Foundation or whatever. So you don't have to change anything in the database. We just make sure that the rendering in the front end will either provide the same functionality, or if it's not available, it will provide the default. So that nothing gets lost. Still, you have to take care of that, of course, because you have to check if you changed something, if everything is still available, and you go to the front end, have a look at the front end output, and if everything is fine. If not, you have to change something, but still just a bit, and not a huge part of the stuff you did. Same for the variants, which are not just for responsive visibility. For example, you can have frames, small frames, large frames, or you can have different behaviors like this should be fade in or just visible for a screen reader or stuff like that. So we just have these 3 groups of different variables to distinguish between behavior, variant, and responsive setting, because these are different purposes, so we wanted to group them and make it easier to handle that when you code in. So when you take a look at the front end, you will see that these are the classes created for Bootstrap. Panel accordion, panel group, panel default, and stuff like that. And to just make this possible, we have introduced another functionality which is not available by the core by default, but when you install themes, it's called class mapping. So you create just a key value pair in the JavaScript, and this is mapping the classes when you generate the front end. I can show you that in the content when you in the code when we go to the code section. So is this clear, or any questions about that? Is it questionable, or do you think it's a good idea to do it this way? Because some people actually said, yeah, but why should I do that? Because actually I don't need this generate classes because I only use Bootstrap. I said, yeah, but the problem might be that your client will not be your client in the future and go to somebody else. And maybe this one is using another framework, and then you have to change everything. And when you have jobs to do like that, when you get a client that was, yeah, in a way, served not that well by the company that did the job before. Sometimes it's a real pain in the ass to just change that stuff and to deal with all the different things. So the idea is, when we all stick to at least this minimum amount of rules, and we all can agree that we work together in a community with a similar behavior regarding stuff like that and standardized stuff, it's much easier to interchange stuff and to keep the client happy. Because when the client is not happy, in most of the cases, it's not the problem of the agency or the problem of the system. So it will fall back to type 3, and the client will get back from type 3 and use something else because they are not satisfied by the stuff that had been delivered by your agency or by somebody else. So we have to make sure that the clients will be satisfied with the product. Because when they are satisfied with the product, they will tell somebody else, and then they come back and we can generate business with that. So I think it's a good idea to have a more or less a common sense of these standards, and this is something that we want to implement as well. It's not just about downloading stuff, having something up quick and dirty, having some design available within just a few minutes. This is just a side effect. You get that in addition, but the major purpose is to standardize stuff and to make it easy for developers to stick to these standards and interchange stuff with each other. Because we have a sharing community, so we share the code with you, and you can share the code with somebody else. I will go to the code section now. And this one, the other one. Can you read that in the back? Okay. Has anybody seen these page layouts before and used these page layouts? Because this is a default functionality of Type 3 core. So this is to show you how it is done. Because everything we do is done in files, just to make sure that we don't run into problems with new IDs. Because of course you can create a backend layout like that with the backend layout wizard, save it to a database record, and then you have this available in your system. And in your system, everything like that will be, for example, connected to the UID of that record, and it's might be 25. So now you shift this thing to another system, not another client or another agency, just another system of your agency, and you create a bit more or less records there, so it will be 23. So everything you did connected to this layout has to be changed. Each and every value in the database, in the setups, in all the other files that you're using has to be changed. And this is not a good idea, so we chose to go for files only. So everything we configure is configured in TypeScript, like this, for the page layouts. It's similar, for example, to grid layout, because actually the grids are created the same way as the page layouts. So you give them a name, another UID, and this name is always the same. When you use the 4-column grid that has been provided by the themes expansion, it will be 4-column grid. Regardless of the system, regardless of the changes you did, it will always have the same name. And we want you as developers to stick to this naming scheme. So when you create something new, it would be great to ask in the community of developers working with themes if there is a common name that you should use for that, and if you should provide it maybe for a base theme, then we can implement that. On the other hand, you can create as many things as you like yourself, but still you should stick to a naming scheme that makes it easy to recognize this stuff later on and to distinguish it from other stuff that has been created by other people. So This is the way we do it with the configurations. When we go to the front-end output, and we can go back to the elements here. You can see everything we did is based on that name as well. I think this is not that really wrote in the back, but the file name is exactly the same name as the name of the layout. So everything is following these rules. You have, for example, always a file structure where you have the extension name, which is themes grid elements, which is a part of the themes when you install it. And then you have configuration, and in configuration you have the page structures, the type of script, and all the other stuff. And this is implemented automatically. So we make sure that when we put it in the same place, and you give it the right name, that everything will be available for you just magically. So you don't have to care about that. And the core does the same. So for example, when you want to change something in the table TT content, and you want to have some additional fields for content available in the backend, you just create a file named ttcontent.php. It has to be in the overrides folder of the TCA of the configuration of your extension. And if you stick to this rule, you make sure that it will be available as soon as you install your extension. This is one of the standards provided by the core. And we provide the other standard, which will be the TypeScript output in the front end. So this is provided by the theme Bootstrap. And as you can see, we already invested a lot of time to just create all these different things that are available out of the box. So you don't have to care about that because it's already there. You can modify that just by changing a few lines. It's visible in this part, just as an example how this is can be done in TypeScript. There actually is a setting for bullets in TypeScript when you install the times recall. But we don't want this bullet behavior because we modified the bullet element to behave differently. So we just empty the TypeScript in that line. It's just done with this operator. And then we create our own TypeScript for the bullet element. So if you want to change something, for example, you just want to change the div class panel body here, you just have to take care of that line and change that. The rest will still stay the same. This is the good thing about TypeScript because it's a huge array and each of the parts is just an array key and you can remove it or you can add another key or you can change it. And this is the whole principle of stuff that we do in themes. So everything you do is just changing the parts that don't fit your stuff or that are not available yet to create your stuff. So when we go to another theme, for example, this is the theme Bootstrap base, and based on theme Bootstrap there is theme Bootstrap Highland. And as you can see, the TypeScript library is still a lot, but a lot less than the one of theme Bootstrap. Because we only had to take care of the changes we wanted to do for theme Highlight, and the rest stays exactly the same because we inherited this stuff from the extensions that we are based on. So when you base something on theme Bootstrap Highlight, you have to do even less, and just a few files will be there that you have to work on, and the rest will just stay the same. Is this still understandable so far? Okay. So I will just get to the part with the class mapping just to show you how it is working. Therefore, we have to go to themes grid elements again because just make sure that we are in the right place. Here's a good example. You don't have to take care about the part in the top. This is just some TypeScript methods that you might know. If you don't know them, you will learn them when you have to deal with TypeScript. Basically, what this part does is it takes the behavior field and maybe the variance field of the record, checks if there are some generic classes in there. And if there are some generic classes, it uses the so-called user function to do something with these classes. So we have a user function, and this user function is just mapping one class to another. And to tell this user function which of the classes we want to map, we have here something that we can just fill into this user function. So the only thing you have to do is to create that part. The rest is done by the user function. And we implement it in a way that these user functions are automatically executed for each of the content elements that are available in the free backend. So when you create something and you have to map classes, you can just map them for each and every part of the content element. You just put them into this key value map. And the key value map will look like this. For example, this is something which is available for all the different maps in the responsive part. This is just for a special one where you have a row that should create columns with equal height. And if there is a row, you can select these classes. If the row is not there, you cannot select them. So this is just in another section. But the rest is available for each and every responsive field. And we just move this one, medium width 1, to call MD1 because this is the bootstrap class name for this behavior. And we do exactly the same in all the other parts. We just throw in stuff like that. And of course, we have to create that on the other part as well. So just have to try to find it. For example, this one is used to create some select boxes in the backend so that you can change the different classes as an editor. And just to go back to the backend and show you what it actually does, we have to go to a free element, for example. And this is creating these boxes because we thought it would be a good idea to have some ready-made multi-column elements where you just have a restricted set of variants because it doesn't make sense to have just one small column and 11 columns beside them. So we decided to go for 3 as a minimum. Of course, you can extend that as well if you don't like it, but this is something which is created by default so that you can easily have multi-column stuff. And if you want to have something more sophisticated, you go for the simple column, row element here, which is this one. And there you should have, for example, the equal height stuff that I showed you in the code. So if you select that, it will make sure that all the columns in this row have the equal height. And in this case, you can fill in as many columns as you like. You can just throw them in. For example, add another one, so you have 3 columns. And of course, you can then define the offset, the push values, the width of this specific column individually. So on the one hand, you have ready-made stuff to do it quick and dirty for the usual things, and if you want to have more sophisticated stuff, you can still do that. Still understandable? Or is it already getting too much? So, what I would like to know is if you think that this is something you can work with, or if this is something that should be changed, or what you like about it, if there are some feedback, if we are on the right track, or if it's too complicated. Because if you have never seen it, it would be a lot of different things that you saw now, because you have this class mapping, the TypeScript, the XML, the backend forms, and all this stuff. We have a book about that. Currently, it's only, unfortunately, only available in German because the publisher refused to do it in English because they just count the English market as being the US and the UK market, and Type 3 is not that widespread in the UK and the US, so they said no, we don't want that. But we are trying to translate it into English and publish it ourselves because we already got the confirmation from the publisher. Then we have a lot of stuff on GitHub. Check if it's here. Yeah, for example, when you go to that part, is it readable? GitHub Type 3 minus themes. This is the whole section of stuff we do in extensions around themes. So you will find all the different existing themes like Theme Highland, Theme Mosaic, and other ready-made themes available there. You will find the themes extension itself, and the best thing is you will find the Vagrant box there. You can download the Vagrant box, just say Vagrant up when you put it on your machine, and you will have exactly the same environment that I used to show you how it works available on your desktop. So that you can just try around and have some experimental stuff based on this machine. And feedback can be given via GitHub, or you just have to check if I have it available here. Yeah. There is a communication platform called type3slack.com. And Slack is something which is getting more common in the Type 3 community for communication because it's faster and live and better than the mailing list that we used before in the news groups. So in almost any case, it doesn't matter when you go there, even late at night, there will be people available to help you. With problems around Type 3 CMS, with problems around other stuff. We have a Type 3 themes channel there. We have a grid elements channel there. There is a Type 3 CMS channel for people just using CMS, and there's even a core dev channel where you can talk directly to the Type 3 developers and discuss stuff with them, or review stuff and all these other things. So if you have questions, if you have problems, you can always go there and we will happily help you. Everybody else as well, because there are already a lot of other people using themes. As you can see, already 80 people have registered just for this channel. So there are already developers and designers using themes and creating stuff based on that. So this will be your communication channel if you have questions. I think that's basically it. So if you have questions now, feel free to ask them. If you have more detailed questions, maybe it's better to ask them later on. I will be available, I will be around the whole day. So we can sit on a table and I can show you even more when we are connected to the internet. And that's it. Thank you.
One question.
Later today we are going to make sessions studying Type 3 from scratch for the guys that want to follow it. And when you start Type 3, usually it's an empty website, and you see that a shame message about now embedded utile. And we will use the interaction package to have a quick and dirty website ready. Okay. And we are going to use the Type 3.6.2 version. This is the currently long time support version. Okay. All this to say, when you do that, the type of interaction package is defined as the official Type 3 release.
Yep.
Okay. But I've seen that already in the 6.2 there is a dance.
There's a themes distribution, yeah.
Yeah.
You can use that as well.
Okay.
So actually, when you install Type 3 for the first time and you are asked if you want to install the distribution, you should always say yes. Because if it's really for the first time, this will help you to get around all these error messages, because then there's something available. If you go for the introduction package, you will find a completely different approach, because it's still based on Bootstrap, but the people creating that package have a much more restrictive way of thinking about how the diagram should behave. So they are not using grids, they are not using structures of the content, they have just predefined page structures, more or less like WordPress or Drupal and other systems. So they want to force the editors to just follow their way of thinking and their way of structuring the content and to give them no freedom at all. You can't do that because sometimes it is necessary, because otherwise the editors might destroy the design completely. And this is always a matter of the system and never a matter of the editor. So when the website looks weird and the boss of the company sees that it looks weird, he will say this is a tapestry problem. And this is why they don't do it in the introduction package. We do it a completely different way because we think most of the stuff should be decided by the editors themselves. And if they start behaving weird, you can still give them a more restrictive environment. So the introduction package will not work with grids, but actually it is at least selectable as a theme when you want to work with themes. But actually, when you want to work with themes and you want to test that out, you should go for the themes distribution or the label box.